Divorce Dad Diaries, day 109, and today I'm doing a slow-cooked beef dish for dinner. So it's Sunday. It's been a bit of a lazy Sunday, just catching up on chores and not doing a hell of a lot. So in keeping with theme, I'm doing a slow-cooked beef dish for dinner, which should just be nice and easy. Chuck a whole bunch of stuff in a pot and leave it for a couple of hours. So I have this stewing steak. This is Angus home kill, and I honestly don't even know what cut this is. It just says stewing steak on the packet, and you could probably tell by my hand movements that I'm a bit confused at what I'm looking at. Effectively, I just want to cut this into rough chunks. I would have quite large chunks, but my kids prefer the smaller stuff, and I relate to that. I remember being a kid and thinking that beef was way too chewy with the baby teeth, and now I'm an adult and I'm like, no, it's not. Just bloody eat it. But anyway, I have to cut it into smaller pieces. I don't have my appropriate knives. They're in the dishwasher. Yes, I know you're not supposed to put knives in the dishwasher, but knives are replaceable and my life isn't, so I'm not going to waste my time doing dishes every night when I have a machine to do it for me. But part of the issue was trying to cut against the grain. You can see from like this piece here, it's a very long piece, and if I cut against the grain, I'm just going to end up with a whole bunch of strips, but I did end up cutting it lengthways anyways, and then just chopping that into smaller pieces. I actually don't own a slow cooker. I haven't for some time. I just use my Dutch oven. I just put stuff in there and then slow cook it for a few hours. So in this case, I'm going to do the beef for, I'm thinking about 3 hours should be enough. Here's hoping anyway. Again, don't know the cut of beef, but we'll see how it goes. Once that's all done, I just go ahead and salt and pepper the beef and put a little bit of oil on it and just massage that a wee bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck that into a screaming hot pan. The idea here is that I just want a little bit of colour on it. I don't want it to cook it. I just want to make sure that in the end product, it's not all just grey beef. There's like little bits of fried on it. So it needs to be hot as hell so I can just get it in and out in like less than a minute. And you can see from the final product, there are bits that are still pink, and then there are bits that are a little bit, have a little bit of crisp on them. So that's what I want to see. I might have wanted more crisp, but you know, it happens. And then from there, I've got to quickly wipe everything down because I've now got oil splashes on everything. Now we're on to veggies. So first off, we have onions. I've just got 2 onions, peel, roughly chop. The big pieces, it's going to slow cook, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't need to be tiny pieces. Once the onion is done, then I'm doing carrot. Now you can see as I'm going to be chucking these veggies into the what's going to be my slow cooker, more or less. So onions are already starting to cook while I'm doing my carrot, peeling that, and again just chopping it into like chunky pieces, because I like a good chunky carrot in my stews. And then from there, I'm doing some celery. Which I'm just going to... This one, I'm not going to cut chunky because my kids would be prone to pulling it out of the dish, so I'm chopping it into smaller pieces. Which brings me to my next piece, which is the mushrooms, which I'm... my kids will absolutely not eat, but they will eat if they don't know what's in there. So I'm actually just going to roughly dice all these mushrooms to the point where if they find them in the dish, they're not going to recognize them as mushrooms. That's the idea. They'll eat them without even knowing it. And of course, it wouldn't be a dish without garlic, obviously. So that goes in the garlic crusher. And then there's always a bunch of residue left over that comes out of the garlic crusher because I don't know, my garlic crusher isn't very good. I don't know, it might be missing a step. But I just roughly dice up what's left and then chuck that in the dish too. No waste here. From there, it's about half an hour's wages or about 50 grams of butter, just to add a bit more flavour to the dish. And once that's melted down and that's all stirred through, our vegetable mealy, we are going to then, having a moment here where I can't remember what it's called, the white stuff, flour. I'm going to put about 1/4 cup of flour in there, and then I'm just going to cook that out for a wee bit. It's going to help thicken the end dish, but I don't want it to taste floury, so you've got to make sure that you actually cook it out. And that brings us to the next point of the dish. What am I actually putting in it? So I've got this jar of tomato passata. I just buy these like pre-made tomato sauces, these budget pan ones all the time, and so I've always got one in my pantry whenever I need one, so I'm just going to chuck that in there. But I also have some more intentional buys, being these slow cooker casserole Maggi recipe packets. I'm going to chuck 2 of them in, and then I'm also going to be chucking in 2 beef stock cubes as well. Tomato in. The acidity in tomato should help break down the beef, which is why I'm thinking only 3 hours should be fine. And then in terms of cleaning out the jar, this needs to be recycled. So what I do is I put about a cup of water in there and then I shake it, and that gets the rest of the tomato out as well as cleans the jar. And with that, I'm putting the beef in too. Then I'm going to put in my 2 flavour packets, my 2 Meiji flavour packets, stir them in. Then I'm going to put my beef stock in, crumble those cubes up, nice and powdery, I guess. I just do it with my hands. And then I'm going to pour in about a cup of boiling water. So it's the passata jar plus about 2 cups of water, which, is for the 2 stock cubes. And I actually got my timing perfect today, because by the time I got that on, low and slow with the lid on, it was 2 o'clock, ready for a 3-hour cook. So, of course, we took the opportunity to go and spend some time at the local park where the neighbourhood ginger came along to meet his people. And then after about 90 minutes, I actually went back and gave it a bit of a stir, and we can see that it's very thick. I might actually have to water it down. But before I do that, I want to add in the final ingredient, because, yes, this is not quite done yet. In fact, I'm going to add some potatoes. So peel, clean, the usual, and then just chop them into chunks. I wasn't really sure how big I wanted to chop them, so I keep... It was very not uniform, the sort of thing I would have got in trouble for back in the day. But that's all right. So chuck that into the mixture, mix it all up, and yeah, it was all right. But as we can see, the pot is almost full. There's a lot of food in here. It's only half a kilo of meat. And that's because we've just bulked it up with so much veggies and sauce. But that's not it either. Once it's done cooking, you could also serve it up with rice. I'm going to do it with a bit of bread and some butter, some toast specifically, just because I love dipping it, and I love to scrape the side of the bowl with my toast. I think it's like an old person thing. I don't know. I love it though. But of course, I added in a little bit of soy sauce as well, just to... I like to add a little bit of soy sauce to my savoury dishes. It just helps to boost the flavour a little bit. And then we let that sit for another 90 minutes. I should probably mention the reason I put the potatoes in now is because if I put it in at the beginning, they just kind of turn to mush. So putting them in towards the end just make sure they still have some stability by the time the dish is done. So it's been the full 3 hours. I have a piece of beef here. We'll see how well it's cooked. Oh, it's not pull apart, that's for sure. Okay, so how I would describe that is it's like a good piece of steak in a steak and cheese pie. Like just a little bit chewy, a little bit of bounce, still easy to eat, doesn't completely fall apart or disintegrate. I really like that. My kids not so much, which means they'll probably just end up eating their vegetables, which is... It's a bit of an odd problem to have, isn't it? Like, oh, woe is me, my kids will only eat their vegetables. Oh well, more for me, and I will catch you on the flip side.